What is going on, guys? It's Caleb here again. Thank you for checking in. So in this video, I want to talk about the money aspects of being a graphic designer, and especially right now when I look at my YouTube comments, I see a lot of people asking. They're thinking about changing their careers to become a designer, but they're not sure if it's going to be worth it, and they wonder like how much money does a graphic designer actually make. And I think the money is definitely a solid concern, because if you're thinking about changing your careers, you definitely have to worry about the bills to pay, and or you have a family to feed, all that, right? So I think money is definitely a valid concern. So I want to make this video to address that. And I think this sort of like currently my location or my client's location are in the States, especially in the San Francisco area, so the Silicon Valley area. I think in different places in the country they will have like different salary for designers, but in general I think they're similar. So just so you know that if you're in other country, it may be different. So I'm not sure about like different markets, but I kind of have the concept of how much people are paying in their country, because I work with you internationally as well. But again, like it's gonna focus on the Silicon Valley area. So I think there are 5 types of designers, and there may be more, but I want to focus on 5 types right now. And in each type, they will have a bit difference, well, not a pricing model, but a different way to make money. But one thing I got to mention is like whatever type you want to become, especially if you're thinking about becoming a designer, I'll definitely suggest you to be super focused on one thing. So let's say if you want to do logo design, only focus on doing logo design, do that really well. So that's like, I gotta put it out there. So the first type of people that I think it's the illustrator. So this type of people, they're really good at drawing things, and they're really good at creating their own arts and use that to sell money. I mean, what kind of better job can that get, right? Like I gotta draw what I love to do, and then at the same time I gotta make money from what I do. So this is like the best. I mean, if I'm an artist, I will definitely do this and do it really well. And usually they can get paid really well. But one thing I want to mention is a lot of illustrators that I know, they don't necessarily work for a full-time company full-time, because a lot of company, they're not always having like the needs to have a illustrator in-house, right? So it's like a supplement to whatever they're working on. So usually Illustrator, they're freelancer as well. And for the Illustrator, right now what I know is a lot of Illustrator, they're charging around like $1,000 for a piece of illustration. So let's say if I want to draw a doctor's talking to a patient, that could be like one piece of illustration. If I want to draw a city, right, that could be another piece of things. So I would say like right now the pricing are ranging from somewhere around like $1,000 for one piece of illustration to maybe like even like $5,000 for $5,000 for like other things, right? So you can imagine like if you get quite a few jobs here and there, then that may be a pretty good source of income, right? Even I mean like some of the illustrators I work with, they have Facebook as their clients, Google as their clients, right? So those, I don't know how much they charge, but definitely maybe more than $1,000 for a piece of illustration. So that could be a really good source of income if you think about that. And second type of designers is the branding designer. So these kind of people, they like they like to think about the business. They want to think about like what are the clients, what represents the client. So there's a bit more like understanding of the business and thinking about like how do they design the logo that fit their brand style, brand image. So I mean that's just another set of skills that people would love to. If I want to understand business really well and really think about a market that can represent them, so these are the people that would be a logo designer. And again, I mean logo design can make a lot of money, right? If you're famous. So logo design right now, I would say people charge around on the low end, people charge around like $500 for a logo design for like a mom and pop shop. But if you're like, let's say working for a startup, you may charge somewhere around like $1,000 to like $5,000 if the company can afford it. And if you're like if you're working for a bigger firm, right, then you may be able to charge maybe like from, let's say, like $10,000 to like $20,000-$30,000 for a logo design. So it really depends on what kind of clients are you working with. But again, I think if you're a logo designer that are really specific in doing logo design, then most likely you're going to be a freelancer as well. But I mean, there are some logo designers just don't care about like getting clients because they're just so good at what they do, and a lot of people pay them really good money. Think about like you don't need a lot of contracts, right? If you're charging like 10 grand for logo design, you may only need like to design maybe like 10 logo per year, then you're good to go, right? So I really know people that are really good at that, and they work with like Oculus and all that. I think they charge maybe like 20-30K to design the Oculus logo. I don't know, but I mean, it could be a really good source of income as well. But for this kind of people, I think the first and second type of people, they're usually freelancer. And the third type of designer is the graphic designer. So which means that you're doing like pre-design work. And I mean, graphic designer is a broad term, but right now I want to limit it to like pre-designer. So pre-designer, you may be doing poster design, menu design, whatever, like the pre-material, packaging design, this kind of thing. And you can definitely work for a company to do this. I mean, a company will hire a full-time guy to just do like this kind of pre-design work, right? But I would say, like, in general, I'm not trying to bash the graphic designer, but in general, I would say, like graphic designer, if you're doing print work, the salary is usually a bit less than doing like online work. The reason why is because think about the value pricing, like how much your company, your studio is going to price for this type of work, right? Usually, I mean, like for poster design may not worth as much than web design for that company, right? So usually I would say like graphic design and print design work, you may get from like, if you're fresh out of school and if you're like junior, you may get around like 30K, and then up to like 40K, 50K. I think maybe like 60K to 70K is like really top end of like in the spectrum for like this kind of people. I'm definitely saying that there may be people get so much more than that if you're super good at like packaging design and all that, right? But in general, I would say maybe like somewhere around like the 70K is like the top of like the career line for being a print designer. So the next one is the web designer, right? So website designer, that's provide more value now, right? Because like every business, they need a website to represent themselves, right? So this type of designer, web designer, they get paid a bit more than graphic designer that only does print stuff. And like when you're working with the website, there's a lot of constraint, right? Like how do you responsive? So the more knowledge you know about the web, the better your design is going to be, right? The clicking things, not really about UI and UX, but like like thinking about how the website works and what is the canvas size and like the grid size and all this, right? So that may be a bit higher up, I would say. So maybe when you first out of school, if you're being a web designer, you may get paid around like 40K and up to like 50, 60, 70, somewhere around like 100K maybe if you're just purely a web designer. But I would say not a lot of startups right now in the Silicon Valley, they're hiring for just web design. They're hiring for like other skills as well, especially UI and UX, and that's what I'm going to get into. So UI and UX designer, so that's another whole different like level of like things that you get yourself involved into, right? Because when you're thinking about UI and UX could be, like YouTube is a very good example, right? They have like a lot of UI elements, and then they need to think about like how people will use their platform as well. So that's UI and UX, and for like the salary of this type of designer, it could be very huge. You could totally make a lot of money being a UI and UX guy for freelancing or working for a company. So I would say UI and UX designer, when you graduated from school, you may make somewhere around like 50K from the start, and then up to maybe 100K if you're intermediate, up to maybe like 150K, or even Facebook, they pay maybe like 170K, 80K. So that like the range is so much higher depending on your skill. And even if you're freelancing, right, you can make up to like, let's say 200K or 300K. It's totally possible. I mean, if you're freelancing as well, think about like how much money your agency is charging and how much you're charging right now is as a freelancer. My agency used to charge somewhere around like $500,000 to $1 million or even more for a project. So like the limit is like unlimited. Well, there's no limit for that, right? Because you're literally giving a lot of value to the business, especially with a SaaS startup, right? The whole product is depending on that piece of software that you create for them, so you can charge a bunch of money. So that's what it is for like the pricing and like people usually make for becoming a designer. And you want to think about like what you love to do the most. Don't just go for what makes money, but think about like what you really like to do the most. If you're really good at drawing, be an illustrator, or if you're thinking about like creating a mark for a business, be a logo designer. So really up to you. I would say do what you love to do, but be really focused. Again, do what you love and be super focused, and you'll be great at that thing, and then you'll be appreciated. So that's all I want to talk about in this video. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel as well. And also follow me on Dribbble and other social media. And I will talk to you guys next time. Cheers.